Hello, everyone. I'm Matthias, and today I'm talking about the company I believe will be the biggest company in the world, Palantir Technologies. So, as we can see here, Palantir is the biggest position in my portfolio with a 21.5% allocation. This being said, I'm also up over 700% on my initial Palantir investment, and I'm not planning on selling a single share. The worst kept secret in the market is the high multiple Palantir is trading at. So, regardless of how you measure it, Palantir trades at a premium multiple. It has a price to sales at over 100. It has a PE value of 309 times earnings. So any way you twist and turn this company is not cheap. It trades at a premium multiple. As I said, I'm not planning on selling one single share because I do believe that this company will be the biggest in the world. It makes no sense to me to sell the company I believe will be the biggest in the world. That being said, this is not financial advice. I'm no financial advisor. This should not be taken as financial advice, purchasing or selling recommendations of Palantir Technologies. You should do your own research. So, in this video, what I'm basically gonna do is present my thesis and my case for Palantir. My thesis can basically be condensed into Palantir being a company that solves inefficiencies at scale, whether this is government or commercial, while automating these processes. So what they do is that they have this ontology. So it's this digital twin of your company. And what this does is drive major efficiencies. This scales the efficiencies of their customers. So this comes from the idea that after the Industrial Revolution, we solved the physical limits of human bodies. So we were able to build things at enormous scales. We were able to mass produce commodities. But with artificial intelligence, we are now solving the cognitive, intellectual limits of human beings. So, with artificial intelligence, we can reach intelligence that is much higher than human beings, and we will see that with the efficiencies that Palantir drives. When you run a company, there are a lot of parallel processes running simultaneously, and when you have processes that run parallel, not communicating with each other, this leads to major inefficiencies of communication. Elon Musk said that the reason why the monetary allocation has been so bad for the United States is because the computer systems do not communicate. And the people working there do not communicate either. So, what Palantir offers is a solution to this problem for enterprises and for governments. Palantir is a company that makes money from selling their products, so this ontology, so this digital twin, to companies, so this is the commercial part of their revenue, and to governments, so this is the government revenue. As I mentioned, my core idea is that this blue bar, meaning the commercial revenue, will become the main part of income for Palantir, while this government revenue also grows. So my idea is that commercial revenue will become and will continue to be the main driver of revenue growth for Palantir. What is extremely lucrative about this product is that it has immense growth while also being very, very profitable. In Q3, their revenues grew by 63%, which was an acceleration from the previous quarter, and which was an acceleration from the quarter before that, and before that, and before that. I remember this company growing about 20% on its revenues. What we also see are incredibly high free cash flow margins while having and boasting incredible growth. We also see incredibly profitable growth. So this company, about half the money it earns goes straight to their free cash flow. So this business model is very lucrative. We see the free cash flow margins here with this purple bar. What we can see is these margins expanding over time as the revenue accelerates. I honestly think that most investors are very well aware of Palantir's immense revenue growth and its acceleration, while also being aware of their incredible Rule of 40 score, being this combination between their profitability and their growth. We'll take a look at the graph. So this graph is from their Q3 2025 earnings, which shows an increase and expansion of their Rule of 40 score. Now, as a software company, if you have revenue growth and a margin combined, which makes up more than 40, you have a very, very lucrative product and a very lucrative investment case. But what we have with Palantir is an incredibly high Rule of 40, 114%. This is an increasing and expanding score, which means that this company is firing on both revenue growth and on its profitability. What we can see in this graph is the rule of 40 of the top 25 global market cap companies overall, with Palantir being an outlier with NVIDIA. What we see here is Meta here with 77 rule of 40. We have Broadcom with 75. We have Visa with 77. And then we have other companies such as Tesla with a rule of 40 score of 21. So what should be said is that Palantir's revenue growth is from a lower base than companies such as NVIDIA, such as Tesla, and so on and so forth. So this should be taken with some context in mind, but what we do have is an incredibly special company with very high revenue and very high profitability. How do Palantir grow so much, and why are they so profitable? How do they manage to keep accelerating their revenue growth and with lucrative free cash flow margins? Well, what I see is a company that lays downstream from value creation. Palantir earns money if their customers earn money. They have been notorious for their go-to-market strategy with these AIP bootcamps, giving the product for free to companies for them to see the efficiency gains, for them to see the productivity gains, so that they have this product in their hands, rather than offering these steak dinners with these stale, as Alex Karp would call it, PowerPoint presentations that are the same for all customers. Well, what Palantir does is basically take these customers on board, showing them the product, showing them how much they can earn, save, and gain from this product, and then they sell it to them for cheap. And if they continue to deliver high value for these companies, then they will increase their contract amount and contract value in the future. So basically, what Palantir is a company that is very, very much value creating and lies downstream from value creation. This is visible in one certain way. This graph shows the company net dollar retention rate. So this means how much they continue to earn on existing customers. What we see here is since Q3 2023, they have expanded and grown this net dollar retention rate. So what this basically means is if the company stopped onboarding more customers, how much would their revenue grow? We see them having a net dollar retention rate of 130%. So this means that they basically keep 130% of the value. If this was under 100, it would mean that they were losing money on existing customers, but they're gaining 34% on existing customers. What will probably happen is that this will increase, basically because they are downstream from value creation. So as long as they keep on creating value, they can earn more money. Now, regardless of however you say it, Palantir is a company that has proven its case in terms of being a value creating agent. So what I'll take a look at now is a couple of famous examples of how Palantir managed to create value for its customers. We'll take a look at Airbus, we'll take a look at Cleveland Clinic, and we'll take a look at AIG. Palantir has a lot more customers. They even have Heineken, where they control their supply chains, where they can predict inefficiencies and shortages in their supply chain and automate these. If you're interested in Palantir, I strongly suggest you looking at their AIP conferences. So these are their customers coming on board and telling how they use their products. If I should give you just one recommendation, I would definitely look at the Citigroup one. So this, in my opinion, is one of the most interesting use cases for Palantir, but I'm not going to look at that one today. Starting this, we can look at AIG and how they've transformed AIG's underwriting process, making them a much better company. So it says here, AIG expects their adoption of an AI-powered underwriting solution, leveraging AIP to double its 5-year revenue CAGR from 10 to 20%. So a doubling of their revenue compound annual growth rate. And we can look at this clip to sort of gauge how much value Palantir creates for AIG.
Amount of time, if you'd like. And we did. And within 2 to 3 weeks, I said, okay, I have what I need. And they got probably 75% of the data that we had outlined. And then with what we were doing with Palantir and Anthropic, we got 92% of the data in 3 hours.
So something that took more than 3 weeks now takes 3 hours. When you do underwriting processes, you want to have as much data as possible. It can take a long time gathering this data because all this data is in fragmented computer systems. As I mentioned in the start of the video, what Palantir does is basically take all your data and compile it into one system. So what AIG does, take all this data, have it in multiple different places, and then it just combines it into one place, making it much easier to do these underwritings. And what would also happen probably in the future is that these processes will be automated. This has already happened with Heineken, so they've automated their supply chains. This has already happened with a lot of different retail stores in America, where Palantir sort of automated how they should place their different things in the store. This is a very interesting value proposition. So we just saw this guy from AIG saying that they sort of decreased the time it took from over 3 weeks to compile all this data, and then they had 75% of it, to now 3 hours where you have 92% of it. So it's just all things else equal a much more productive and a much more efficient way of running your company. Another very famous Palantir customer relation is the Palantir and Airbus relationship. So basically, I'll just do this in a very short way, but 33% increased production of the A350. So this means a 33% increase in the amount produced in the same time. So this is an incredible efficiency gain provided from Palantir. You can produce more with the same amount. So this adds an incredibly interesting value proposition, right? So you can do an increasing amount of things with the same amount of input. So you get more output from the same input. Every single worker gets more efficient. What the main driver of Palantir's future revenue will be, along with all this efficiency gain, is basically a platformization of all their processes. So what Airbus and the Palantir relationship did was spawn this Skywise operating system. So what Palantir do is that they gather all this data from production. So they basically spawn this operating system for aviation companies. So making other aviation companies more efficient because of their relationship with Airbus, using this data to make these operating systems. They've done the same thing with production, right? So doing this work, be creating this operating systems for production companies, making them more efficient. My thesis and my idea is all these different industries will have their own operating systems driven by Palantir, so made and provided by Palantir. What is interesting about Palantir is the broad assortment of customers that they have. So what we've seen now is AIG. So they have insurance companies, they have banks such as Citigroup, right? And now they have Airbus as well. They have atomic companies, they have retail stores, they have Wendy's, they have governments, they have the FBI, the CIA, all these different industries run on Palantir. So they have a broad assortment of different use cases. So what this product is, what the ontology is a very flexible product. It is very similar to the Office package, right? So you have all these different companies and all these different industries basically running on the Office pack, basically running on is a very similar thing to clouds being very agnostic, being regardless of what sort of company you drive, you can use this. So one of the other things that will drive Palantir in the future is their ability to just spawn these industry-wide operating systems such as Skywise, Workbeat, and so on. A big issue when running companies basically is inefficiencies due to systems and computers and people not talking to each other. So what you have is a lot of fragmented people and fragmented systems that do not communicate. What then happens is that you have people having to look into different systems, people communicating with each other in order to find and source these things. What Palantir does, as I've mentioned, is gather all this data into one platform, the ontology, making a digital twin of your company, right? And one thing that is very interesting is the gains in efficiency in hospitals. So a very famous customer they have is the Cleveland Clinic. And what Palantir helped them doing was basically, as I mentioned, becoming way more efficient. So we have a 75% reduced time spent in calculating bed capacity. So beds churn much quicker. Bed capacity gets filled up much quicker, making the company and hospitals a lot more efficient in terms of allocation of beds. We've also seen them deliver decreased time spent before you actually meet a health professional. I think it was around 30 to 40 minutes shorter time waiting in line to be met by a professional. So what happens is productivity and efficiency gains, and Palantir delivers this at scale. regardless of what industry you work in. So they have companies and customers, as I said, working with atomic energy. They have companies working with space rockets. And my idea is that this product is so broadly applicable that it will just create value for a lot of different companies, for a lot of different governments. What we see with this efficiency gain is just basically Palantir providing value. And wherever value is provided, that's where the customers go. That has been Alex Karp's main thesis. So Danish viewers of my channels would know, and I've shown this multiple times, that Alex Karp keeps pounding the table on how much Palantir creates value. And companies and customers will basically gravitate towards the value creation, towards where they can see how much more efficient they can become, and what you need in order to do this, and in order to apply AI, and in order to sort of accelerate your efficiencies, is having these ontologies. So if you want to be able to automate your processes just as Heineken did, and automate your bed assignment, and automate all these underwriting processes, what you need is an ontology. So this layer that sits on top of your data that can sort of be plugged into an LLM, so you can chat with ChatGPT, say, hey, how many beds do we have available, blah, 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 and then they'll just do the rest for you. What we see is Palantir providing this while also delivering immense value. And finally, I would just say that Palantir is still a day one company. They boasted revenues of over $1 billion in Q3 2025, doing this with 911 customers in total, with 742 commercial customers. So imagine what will happen when they have 9,000 customers total, when they have 7,000 commercial customers, when they have 70,000 commercial customers, when they've created these industry-wide operating systems that just increases efficiencies in all these customers' companies, increasing efficiencies in states, in police departments, in government branches, right? What you have is immense value proposition. What you have is incredible value production. And what I think will happen is we will continue to see an increase and an acceleration of their revenue growth, while also seeing them gaining more free cash flow margins, increasing their free cash flow margins. I hopefully laid out the case for why I do think Palantir has the characteristics to make it the biggest company in the world. The main driver of growth and the main driver of my thesis just being how transformative this software is, how applicable it is, how broadly applicable it is, right? How careless it is of what sort of industry you work in, and also their ability to create these industry-wide operating systems that can be used and applied by multiple customers. Also, we see major growth in their net dollar retention rate. This will continue to go up as they continue to create more value, so they can basically increase the contract values over time. They will have immense pricing power. What we have right now is a Palantir firing on all cylinders, not even pricing their products optimally. They have the lowest possible price that they can offer their customers in order to prove that they can show and give value over time. In another video, I will definitely go over the moat that Palantir has, because there's a lot of doubt over what sort of protects this revenue bucket. So that will be in another video. I hope you guys learned something about Palantir today, and I hope I've proven my case of why I think this company will be bigger over time and why I refuse to sell my shares. So thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. I'll see you next time.